And I will say this too, that I let this song play out because it is actually a nod to our guest this evening, who we know is a former DJ. And when we start the show, we always ask people to introduce themselves in a way that they would like to be introduced. And that's one of those nuggets which we'll see if we mention that at all. And so as we get started tonight, again, I want to thank you for joining us here. I know that school's out tomorrow. So those that would normally spend a Sunday evening listening to the show, ironing clothes and those other things, I guess tonight they got a break to do so. And I was smiling when I found that the school was out. I did not know until like yesterday. And I'm thinking, geez, again? But we know how it is for children. And someone did say to me, well, one thing we have to accept is that for the children, it's an academic break. It seemed like they were off last week, but in any event, it's part of the process. And so I want to commend everyone that's tuning in. I know there are transport drivers, whether it be taxis or buses or otherwise, limos and the rest of it, who tune in all the time, and persons that just do it. I know, again, overseas, there's at least a couple that will have their, as I call it, tea and crumpets, sit by the radio and listen in to what's going on or go online. And so I want to welcome everyone. Starting off, though, I want to give a tribute, as everyone is doing now, I believe. Anybody that is even remotely touched by broadcasting or media or anything like that would have to recognize that the passing of Miss Yola Wilson is a tragedy. Clearly, in life, we know that these things do take place, but for Yola and many others, those are icons that cannot be replaced. Many are referring to her as one of Bermuda's most brilliant journalists. She was very bright. And clearly, if you knew Yola, like, you know that she knows she don't pull no punches, no matter who you are. She'll tell you straight up, no matter what you may think, but she's going to tell you what she thinks. And you're never going to be in the dark in terms of what her thoughts might be. But definitely very, very brilliant. And I would say this, that one of her strengths is that she knew everybody from, like in every strata of life. And so when there was an issue or a story or a matter, she would find the details because everyone knew that they could rely on her to, number one, be confidential, to be professional, and to get the full facts out there. And so to that extent, we do commend her family, send our condolences to her son and her grandchild, and just, to the whole broadcast community and Bermuda, the broader Bermuda, to really, we will miss Yola. She has made her mark. And that will live on surely. And we look forward now to the many other tributes. We've seen many on Facebook and elsewhere. Truly a special person. I'll just say that she's definitely a special person. And we will miss her from a broadcast perspective. And I'll also, but I'll also extend condolences, to the tragedy for the family of the young lady who lost her life yesterday. Truly a sad time in terms of, every time it is a tragedy, but sometimes the timing, Valentine's Day, for example, it makes it that much more. The fact that she was young, a Barclayite, and all those things just add to the tragedy of it all. And I trust that, those that know the family more directly would be sympathetic, would, offer condolences and be supportive without being intrusive at what is going to be, a very, very difficult time. And I also extend the condolences to the broader Barclay family, because there have been so many young people that have lost their lives in the recent 12, 24 months. And so many of them have been Barclayites or ex-Barclayites. And so I can only imagine the impact on the entire Barclay faculty and family in terms of the students and the teachers and the administrators all together. Just cannot imagine. And I know there's one person who I know of that has had so much familiarity, whether it be teaching or otherwise, being engaged with these young people, many of the young people. And so, again, I extend my condolences to everyone in that circumstance. For Bermuda, we can only say, be safe. And, I always sign off by telling everyone or asking everyone, encouraging everybody that if you're out early or late, please wear a high visibility vest, wear a light or something so people can see you, because early in the morning and even in the evening times, people are sometimes just inattentive. They are sleepy. They're just not paying attention on the phone, whatever they're doing. And we want to make sure that you who are walking or riding a bike, for that matter, if you have on a high visibility vest, it allows the operator of the vehicle as much time as possible to see you and take avoiding action if necessary, or you to see them. And so that's my encouragement, really to say that one more time. And then, having said that, Minister Joshua Adams is our guest tonight. he knows, and everyone else that knows me in the political arena knows that he is one of my favorite ministers.
Oh, wow, I
he is a young man,
yes,
always well presented, both in terms of his physical dress presentation, but also his speech, his commentary, always well prepared. And certainly I'm always standing by to listen to him, to ask questions, to facilitate him coming on board. And I won't say what, but I do hope to see him in different environments as we go forward, whether it be in the immediate future and then maybe the distant future. But definitely everyone want to commend Minister Jesse Adams to just all that he does. You know, he ran in an atypical or non-typical constituency. Won it in 2020, and then redid it again last year.
Yes.
2025. Yeah. And so, again, with all those things,
yes,
Minister Jesse Adams, who are you? Besides the DJ.
Yeah, besides the DJ. First wanted to thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm happy to be here, and certainly welcome to your listening audience. I know firsthand sort of the breadth of listeners that you have that tune in quite regularly. And so it often makes me smile as I sort of reciprocate that same sentiment, because I can vividly recall the origins of this radio show stemmed around budget time.
Yes.
And I think it was just supposed to be a 2-episode arrangement. And here, what are we, 4 or 5 years later?
Correct, yes.
You continue to move on from strength to strength. And so I appreciate you and the things that you do in terms of informing the audience of what's happening in Bermuda from a number of spectrums. And happy to lend my voice this evening to speak to some of the things that we have going on in the world of the Ministry of Public Works and Environment. Okay. Who am I?
Yes, sir.
I often say a proud father to a lovely 4-year-old Yara, but I'm going to cast that aside because I was given strict instructions today to give a shout out to my mother.
Okay.
I told I was on the radios today, so I was given strict instructions. So with that, I am very much a proud son of Karen Adams and grandson of Iona Brangman, Natalie Adderley, Irwin Adderley, Keith Adams, and the like. And certainly, that's from the family vibe. And certainly, outside of family, who are always important to me, it's the vision or the focus and determination I have to just simply be impactful. I am privileged to be in this position for as long as I'm in this position. And if you were to ask me sort of what my focus is, it's just to be impactful, to leave the Ministry of Public Works and Environment, and indeed the country, a bit better whenever I leave this role than I found it. And so I continue to do the work. I just left from doing some work in the office, and then had an event that I intended to and came here. So constantly working, but, constantly with the aim of just being impactful. So a family man that is determined, that loves his country, has decided to put his name forth for public service. It comes with its benefits and its disadvantages.
Yes.
But that's the case with all things. And certainly, just, eager to progress what I believe is our party's overall agenda.
Gotcha. And just because people like this, right? Give a quick background. Give us a quick review of your background from schooling and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
Work life.
Went to Warwick Academy. I'll try to keep it brief. So we went to Warwick Academy, graduated, then went to St. Mary's University, where I focused on finance. So finance was the major that I received. Upon finishing that, I started to work at Butterfield Bank, specifically in our corporate banking departments. Well, I started as a management trainee, When I finished the management training program, I was fortunate enough to be seconded to work in their Cayman office.
Oh, okay.
So I got to work in their Cayman office for roughly 2 years. Returned to Bermuda and started to work at Butterfield's corporate banking department, much focused on a corporate relationship management role. It's fancy for just dealt with a lot of corporate clients, specifically on the credit side. So I gave out or issued corporate loans and focused on corporate loans. So I did that I was at Butterfield for roughly 12 years. Was in the corporate banking department for, let's call it 9 years. And finished that, sort of just wanted a change in life, if you will. I think I sort of was okay with the banking, but certainly just wanted a change, and was fortunate enough to be an advisor to the then Minister of Finance, the former Minister Curtis Dickinson. So I did that for a while. And then when he left and the current Minister of Finance took on the role, he kept me on as advisor. And then I took on the role as Junior Minister of Finance. Yeah. So worked worked hand in hand with the Minister or the Premier on a number of policy initiatives that were done, particularly around COVID time and just after COVID. And as you said, in February of last year, got reelected, and was grateful and certainly fortunate to be appointed as this current role as the Minister of Public Works and Environment. Okay. So again, in all roles and the range that I've done thus far, I believe that I try to do my best to be impactful, to sort of leave the position better than how I found it, and I don't expect this current role to be any different.
Okay, well, thank you. And I must say, it's refreshing for me, and hopefully for the whole audience, right, that you talked about the background in corporate finance,
yes,
in the corporate banking role for Butterfield Bank for, you said about 10 years or so.
Roughly,
and I say that because as small as Bermuda is, right, we don't know everything about everybody, even though we think we do. And we do try to have this linkage in terms of, well, why is he doing what he's doing, And I guess a lot of us would not understand the detail of the corporate banking rule.
Yeah.
But obviously, it gives you exposure to the whole idea of credit, which is important. No question. And we would know that you speak very often in the House and elsewhere, or used to more so than now, about what Bermuda's corporate levels are in terms of the debt, how it's structured, the repayment, and those type of things. And what I'll do, which you don't know this, by the way, but next week, well, you know this, next week's going to be, this week, Friday, is budget day.
Yes.
And the Minister of Finance is going to be on my guest next week. And I'm looking forward to see what has happened with the corporate income tax, how much money is really going to be relied upon from that point of view. And so, Mr. Premier, Mr. Minister of Finance, know that that's going to be a topic of discussion next week. But again, I think it's refreshing now to just reemphasize the fact that you do have this background. And formally, when you're the Minister of Finance, it's a huge relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So
experience.
We're going to talk about public works and environment, but if I just wanted to touch base, I think one of the things that has to sort of be acknowledged is that there were many countries who decided to go alternative routes and do different things. And I think what goes understated is the level of effort, the level of work that had to be done in order for us to have a regime that allows us to collect this corporate income tax.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that is because we're now in a space where the regime is here and we're focused on how much are we getting and what are we going to do with the money. And I think there has to be an element where we begin to appreciate the level of effort. I mean, it was a Herculean effort that had to be done within the Ministry of Finance, within the government, in terms of stakeholder engagement, and, legislatively, things that were done in order to be able to position us to be in a space where we can collect this corporate income tax. And so I've always, send my kudos to the Minister of Finance and his team for the work that they've done that has now positioned us to be in a space where we can actually see and feel that the future within this country is bright because of the regime, because of the level of corporate income tax. And now, yes, the onus is on the government of the day to be responsible with this money once it's received.
Got it. Okay. And again, we're not here to necessarily go into the finance part too much, but it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Especially now, because the next question or comment is going to be that within your ministry, you are, I think, the fourth ministry from an overall budget point of view. But in terms of the capital expenditure, you are the ministry because partly because you're responsible for so many other ministries. And so let's talk a little bit about your actual budget, what you're spending money on, and then I want to go back to what you said earlier, which is what you're looking for now to be the most impactful for Minister Joshe.
Yeah, so it's funny. What I can say is sort of what we've put in, and I know I'm getting very.
No, it's fine.
No, because I'm getting very technical. But the budget has not been approved, right?
Okay.
So there's still an element of that. But with that being said, yes, the Ministry of Public Works and Environment certainly has the vast majority of capital spending or the capital budget that is within my ministry. Capital spending really is the funds that are used to invest in assets that the country will use for many, many years to come.
Okay.
And that is a very fancy way of saying that this is the money that is used to repair our buildings, to repair our roads, to buy new and modern machinery. This is the level, that's what we're referring to as capital spending. So absolutely, within the upcoming year, we're certainly focused on a number of projects that are have been long in the works, that will certainly making tremendous progress with. I think, the first thing that comes to mind, you talk about public works, the first thing that comes to mind is actually Tynes Bay, the waste to energy facility. And the reason why is because it's probably the least sexy particular item within public works. And to some degree, I think it's a space that people, I think even from my lens, I need to do a better job of communicating exactly what goes on at Tynes Bay.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that, I would imagine the average person just puts the trash out on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's collected, and that's it.
Yes.
Right? But there's so much that goes on at Tynes Bay that puts this country so much further ahead than our counterparts. It's something that we really should take pride in.
Okay.
The fact that we do not do any landfill, particularly of our trash, is significant. Many of our sister islands down the south would love to be in that position. But, Tynes Bay has seen better days.
Yes.
I think many will recall for a brief period during the COVID period, there were some issues with Tynes Bay, and unfortunately we had to resort back to landfilling for a brief period of time. But what we're now doing is investing in Tynes Bay from a maintenance perspective, but also you talked about the capital spending that we're trying to do. There's also putting us in a position to refurbish, to fully refurbish Tynes Bay to extend its shelf life for another 20 to 30 years.
Oh, okay.
Because we recognize the value that it brings to the country from an environmental perspective, from an energy perspective, a waste management perspective. There's so many benefits to Tynes Bay that it's fundamental in terms of our future capital spending. So it may not be, and it's almost one of those things, again, really what I'm emphasizing is the reason we're doing it is not only the benefits that it brings, but you can only imagine the discontent people would have if we had to resort back to landfill.
Okay.
Right? No one wants to go back to there. And so we are focused on reinvesting and refurbishing that facility and to keep us and our waste to management regime as modern as possible. So Tynes Bay is a key one.
Yes.
Another one is our agriculture center. I think this is part of the reason why we've joined why we've joined in the environment with public works is because we recognize that climate change is real. As a government, we recognize that climate change is real. And so when we're investing in infrastructure, I think it's important, or the government feels it's important to keep the effects or impacts of climate change at the fore when we're discussing how we're going to progress forward with infrastructure development. And so the Agriculture Center is key because we value the importance of sustainability. And so we want to be, notwithstanding this will always be an island that imports the goods and services, there's also a call for us to, at the very least, be more self-sufficient in what we do. And so there will be the development of the Agriculture Center, but also from a food
Bermuda Live on YouTube.
storage,
Subscribe now.
farming, food production, but also another one is our key water tanks. There are a number of large government tanks throughout the island that we are currently investing in now, and with the future capital spend that I'm hoping will be approved in the coming weeks, we will continue to invest in those water tanks so that not only will we improve our food storage on the island, but also our water storage as well. So sustainability is absolutely one of the functions that we are focused on. But then there's also a number of things, I think, from whether it be our corrections facilities, so investing in those, the schools, the state of our schools, the state of our roads, all of those are absolutely a focus of the government. What the country will see is, and this is great because it allows me to tie it in. What the country will see is that the previous budgets have increasingly seen a larger capital spend budget, or capital budget, and I don't expect this year to be any different. And so that is a fancy way of saying that I fully expect to have even more money to spend and invest on our capital assets. That is something that we're proud of. And the reason that allows us to do this is because for the last, or since COVID really, the public will know that our deficits have been steady declining. We've reached an absolute surplus. When I say absolute, is confirmed and audited surplus. And as our fiscal position continues to improve, the Minister of Finance has sought to allocate increasing funds towards capital spend. And so many people and that leads me to 2025, last year. So for the first year taking on the role, I think many people will not see the tangible fruits of these budgets to the degree that I think they would like. And the reason why I say that is because a number of preliminary things need to happen before you reach shovels in the ground. So you can appreciate there has to be architectural designs, there has to be structural engineer reports, there needs to be up the chain on the appropriate approvals, and all of that sort of stuff needs to happen before we can actually reach the levels of shovels in the ground that we're talking about. And so what gives me pride is the fact that many of that preliminary stuff was completed in 2025. And so I think the public will be pleased to see that there will be quite a number of shovels on the ground on a number of projects, and we'll start to see quite a number of development taking place in 2026. And I says, from the Agriculture Center to the Tynes Bay to improvements within our schools, improvements within our corrections facilities, as well as care homes as well. That's another key government buildings that certainly we'll start to see some tangible improvements. And so all of that sort of stuff all of those works, all of
Yeah.
those public works, if I'm going to use a pun there, all
Yes.
of those public works, I think we'll start to see some real tangible results in the upcoming year.
Gotcha. One comment that comes from what you just been saying, right? Is there a concern that you're going to overheat the economy in terms of all these things taking place now? Like what's going to happen in terms of the labor component and all that kind of thing? How's that going to work?
No question about it. It is absolutely I'm not going to say a concern, but it is something that has to be considered.
Yes.
So with that being said, you would appreciate, I'm not talking about everything is going to start at once.
Yes,
so
yes,
they're
yes.
all at different stages, and it's strategically sort of mapped out that way,
Okay.
so we don't, as you quite rightly said, overheat the market.
Right.
But even with that being said, there are a number of projects that have been going on in 2025 that we expect to be completed
Okay, fine.
in 2026, and so some of that will be, works that are completed that now, would allow us the capacity to take on works in the future.
Okay. If I may, I want to actually go back a bit.
Sure.
Because as you said, Tynes Bay has been in place for, I don't know, maybe 30 years or something like that. It's been quite a while. And for those of us that lived in the area, remember it being built. Remember the stack going up and painting it and all that kind of thing, right? But talk a little bit more about what it is, waste to, you called it, which is what it is, waste to energy, right?
Yes.
Talk a little bit more about that so people understand what that actually means. I know we take stuff down, that we burn it, but tell us a little bit more about that.
I won't go down the technical route. I'll simplify it as possible.
Sure.
We burn the trash, and that heat is then converted into energy. So we have devices within the facility that allow for that heat that is used to not only burn the trash, but also to be used to convert into energy. That energy is then used to supply the facility itself.
Okay.
So all of the energy that is required to run the facility is actually used. Well, I shouldn't say all, most.
Yeah.
But also it provides us the capacity to then use some of that excess energy and set it off back to the grid over to Belco. So this is just a way. So it's not just simply burning trash for the sake of burning trash. It is also taking that heat, if you will, converting it and using it in a more environmentally friendly way.
So in a reasonable sense, Tynes Bay has a zero Belco bill. Within reason.
I wouldn't say zero, but very low. Yes, yes.
And again, it's interesting. So basically, we have all our trash. It gets burnt up, high heat gets converted to generate electricity for both Tynes Bay and sell the rest or the access off to Belco.
100%.
Gotcha.
And so the facility, as I said, is reached sort of the end of its shelf life. And so we are focused on refurbishing that facility to allow us to continue along that manner. Again, we talk about this and having this in place for the last 30 years.
Yes.
Many of our sister islands still don't have that at all. They are still landfilling.
Okay.
And so this is, it is one of the things that when you are the minister responsible for public works and even the environment, it's something that I am quite proud of, and I think Bermuda should be quite proud of as well.
Sure. Again, to listening audience, thanks for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight. We're having an exciting conversation with Minister Joshua Adams, who is the minister responsible for government's largest capital expenditure and I guess the fourth largest budget. I'm just going through now in terms of what he is doing, what is going to make his mark, or what he wants to leave it, what he wants to do to leave his mark. And there are many other projects to go through. And so the next one, the biggest one, well, not the biggest one, the one we just talked about was the Tynes Bay. And I will say, I remember it because I lived in that area way back when it first started being built. And,
Awesome.
It was like, what's happening there?
Sure.
And I will also say, I suppose, that for all of us now, that the Marsh Folly would have been where we dumped all of our trash.
Correct.
The landfill, as you called it. And for some of us that, again, have been around for a while, we would have seen it go from like almost ground zero to how high it is now, and then to stop and move forward. What's the status of moving it to a parkland or somehow managing it as an ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think, so there's a number of things. there's a number of things. I think, yes, there continues to be discussions on how to best utilize that land. And so we'll continue to progress forward with those discussions. But there's also, as I said, it's not particularly the landfill for trash, but it's sort of used for quite a number of things. Whether it be horticulture and waste and whatnot. In fact, it was interesting. I think it was, 5, 6, 7 months ago. There was an article in the Daily where there was a picture of several dogs, canines, at that facility, and it caused some alarm from people. But what's interesting is that for the team there, that was a regular occurrence. And when I say that, this was not, for the record, this was not dogs that were maliciously killed and just dumped on the side of the road. These were actually dogs that were euthanized at the SPCA by our team, not the SPCA, but our team within the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. Those were dogs that were euthanized, and on a fairly regular basis, they sort of take the dogs all at one time and discard them at Marsh Folly. And so, but it's not just dogs. You can imagine a number of large animals, horses, cows. There's a number of carcasses that are disposed of at Marsh Folly. So Marsh Folly is used for a number of things. There's always questions and always discussions on how can we best utilize the area. But at the same time, there's a space of recognizing that it is relatively fit for purpose for what it's doing now.
Okay. And to be honest, I mean, even when you mentioned that, like when I first realized, right, that they put, in my mind, horses down there, right? It, like, unless you are aware of it, it doesn't come to mind that guess what, with these animals and whatever, they have to be dispersed somewhere.
Correct.
You don't throw them overboard.
Correct.
And so there needs to be a quote unquote a national place to put them, and that's where they go.
So I think, yes. So I mean, I'm using the dogs as an example, but, I think it was an individual who perhaps does not see this on a regular basis that was quite alarmed. But for the team who see this on a regular basis, it was sort of par for the course, if you will. But yes, so that is where, whether it be, animals as small as chickens, chickens and other birds and cows, and as you said, horses and dogs, and not cats, and a number of dead carcasses that are, on the island that our team have to collect or address. That's the appropriate place to put them.
Gotcha. One question which may be unfair, but what is the plan in terms of solid waste management in that, I happen to drive around and I know there's the quote unquote the dump down at the airport, but if you drive around, there are many, many places whereby there are old cars. Effectively, right? Like just almost everywhere. What is the long-term plan in terms of being able to, I don't know what you can do with, I say cars in particular, vehicles?
So not quite my space. So those derelict cars are primarily in the remit of the Minister of Transport. So I'm sure he has a plan to address those. But when those cars do reach, they are, properly sent to, as you quite rightly said, the area in St. David's. There's an entire process that effectively is appropriately drains the engines and there's a process. But ultimately they are crushed and addressed.
Gotcha. Okay. And two things now that people may not be as familiar with, but I heard a commercial.
Yes.
With your voice. I didn't see it for some reason, but I heard your voice for sure.
Okay.
And it talked about the Bermuda Aquarium Museum and Zoo, BAMS.
BAMS.
And so let's talk about what's happening with that in terms of the whole redevelopment. And, I will say this, I don't have any small children now, but it's an amazing whole ecosystem down there. When people go to visit, how they see different things, species, and I know they do a very good job when it comes to distressed animals. How they get them. And they rehabilitate them before they let them out to the wild. But I heard your voice on a relatively long commercial talking about redevelopment. So let's give some information about that, please.
Yeah, so it's one of the things that we are quite proud of. And this is now focusing on the environment side, but it still has an element of public works.
Sure.
But, as I said in the commercial, but just overall, BAMS has been a part of this country for generations.
Yes.
And there are a number of benefits and tremendous work that they do that is important to the overall country and our overall ecosystem. There's an element of just simply education and knowledge transfer. BAMS takes and speaks to roughly 8,000 children a year.
Wow.
8,000 children a year, speaking of the number of species on the island, whether it be plant life or animal life, the importance of respecting climate, the importance of respecting Bermuda as a whole and our environment. And so there's an education piece, but yes, there's also a rehabilitation part. And I think you talk about the commercial, it was something that I was quite passionate about that we include in the commercial, was the fact to speak to some of the work that takes place from a rehabilitation center.
Okay.
A great example was several months ago, we had the Duchess of Gloucester visit the island, and she was quite keen on a visit to the aquarium.
Wow.
So we took her to the aquarium, and one of the things that we saw was a sea turtle that was captured, and that sea turtle had suffered some injuries, and they were working on rehabilitating that sea turtle. But one of its biggest challenges was it was finding it difficult. It had a buoyancy issue. So it had a buoyancy issue, and the team constantly worked and help to rehabilitate that turtle. And it's encouraging to see that it is moving and progressing nicely in terms of the work that it does. So whether it be sort of sea animals, whether it be birds, whether it be a number of animals that we find on the island that are distressed for a number of reasons, the work that they do to sort of be in a position to return those animals back to the wild is really remarkable.
Okay.
And then there's also just an attraction, right? Quite a number of tourists and locals alike visit the island. I know, sometimes you may have a friend of yours that visits the island and you need, somewhere to take them or something to show them. And so that's often a place that we go and we take our friends and family or visitors, but just, guests alike to the aquarium. And so it's something that we are proud of. As I said, it's one of our attractions, and the government is pleased to put together the necessary investment to see the aquarium move on and become more modern in its way. A great example. So the North Rock tank is certainly one of the highlights of the overall aquarium. It sort of got pushed ahead, primarily because it was leaking. So the North Rock tank was leaking, and so we had to move quite quickly and get the experts from overseas on island to replace the tank. And so that's what they're currently working on. But also, there's going to be a number of changes. I know they're going to enhance the playground, move the alligators. They're going to. I don't think the seals are going to be there. I think the seals are quite old, and so I don't think they're going to replace the seals. I think they have an idea, and they told me, I just can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they have ideas of what sort of animals will go in that pool area once the seals are gone. And so, yes, we continue to invest in a number of projects, and BAMS is just one of those ones. Again, these are some of the things that were in the works in 2025 that now in 2026 people can actually see some of that action taking place. Okay, got you.
Now, next one I want to talk about is, I know it's there, right? But I don't think that Bermudians or residents are really thinking about this, and that is actually climate study. I do know that, I think the previous minister did actually, the Honorable Walter Rabban, he talked about some of our low-lying areas and things that are at risk. And I'm saying that now because, as we all know, in the past, I don't know, maybe say 2 weeks or so, it's been very cold, it's been raining, and I don't think that we are mindful of the impacts of climate change. And so talk some more, please, about that whole study we're at, and if you can, which areas might be at risk.
Yeah, so 2024, I'll give you sort of a high-level perspective. There was a group from the UK, a company called Wantley, who offered to pay for research on the island. So this is not, the taxpayer did not pay for this. And they were doing research to do a study on the impacts of climate change on Bermuda. That was completed at the end of 2024. And what we're now focused on as a ministry is focused on taking that report and actually beginning a plan as to how will we prepare ourselves for these impacts. And so you quite rightly said there are a number of key facilities within the island that need to be considered, whether that are in relatively low-lying areas. Off the top of my head, the airport is one. Belco is another.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, so Belco is another. And so when we start to talk about rising sea levels, so I don't want to cause mass hysteria. It's not like tomorrow,
right.
We're underwater. But it is something that it would be prudent upon us as a government to start preparing now.
Yes.
And so, these are sorts of the discussions that we are having from a ministerial perspective. And so where we are now is we're in the works of putting together a task force. So representatives from various ministries will meet on a regular basis and begin to map out a plan as to how we're going to prepare this country for what we believe is inevitable climate change. Climate change is real. So yes, so from low-lying areas to the reality that we are likely to face more frequent and more intense hurricanes. There's another one. The acidity within our oceans and how that will impact our reefs. And why that's important is because our reefs play a critical role in protecting us as an island. And so we want to do what we can to protect our reefs, but there's also foreshore protection, so cliff erosions. There are a number of things that the report has determined. Certain areas have caves. Certain areas have caves underneath. So I think the average public probably wouldn't even be aware. And so how do we best protect us? So now that we have this knowledge and they've handed it to us, it's now sort of say, here, government, now that you have this knowledge, the rest is on you. And so, yes, absolutely. We talked about capital spending. One of the first things that we would do is foreshore protection. We are already gearing up to address the cliff around Marley Beach is that Warwick? So Marley Beach along Warwick, which is around the Southlands, Bermudiana area. So using some of those foreshore protections. So there's a number of works that are being developed, but more specifically in terms of that report, the next steps is putting together that task force. So someone from Public Works, someone from Planning, someone from Home Affairs, from an energy perspective. There are a number of select individuals from the ministries who will meet together on a regular basis and begin to map out a path.
Okay. I mean, I think, again, for those of us that are from St. George's, we know that when in a high tide,
Yes.
or certainly like in a storm or hurricane type time, the square gets flooded.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an interesting thing, like literally it gets flooded. And so it's interesting to me to understand what impact that is having on the infrastructure of those buildings.
Yeah.
And so that's a small example, though, of how Bermuda has to then look at it from, as you said, from a more national level to see what we're going to do going forward. So again, thank you for that. And I would say this to the general public, sometimes there's so much information available. Take the time to either like read it or get a summary of it or just be aware because it is real.
Absolutely.
It's no question.
Without question. I think it's real. And not only is it real, but so sometimes, if it's not immediately an emergency in front of your face, people tend to sort of cast it aside. But I think what I'm sort of emphasizing is that as a prudent government, recognizing the trends and all of the statistics sort of indicate where we're heading.
Yes.
I think now's the best time. What they say, an ounce of prevention.
It's about the pound of cure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, we're putting in the work early. So it's not as if to say that, tomorrow, we're going to be drowning. I think that's not where we're at. But sort of now's the time, and it's been deemed the time to make the necessary investments. And so now that the report is there, the task force will indicate. And so I think, in the not so distant future, the public will see more and more efforts to protect us from the adverse effects of climate change.
Okay. Well, again, to listening audience, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight, another exciting conversation with Minister Joshua Adams. I think one of our youngest ministers, but one of the, I wouldn't compare him, that's the wrong word, but anyway, well prepared, presented both physically and also verbally when he speaks, always well presented. So the next point I want to ask, which leads on from the idea of climate change, is I keep on referring to those of us that are from the East. I don't live in the East anymore, but from the East. What's the update on the bridges? Swing Bridge and
Swing Bridge.
Yeah. Because I knew there was some.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's the update?
So there's a couple of things. I think the existing Swing Bridge, I think we all can appreciate it's sort of reached its shelf life.
Yes.
And so 2 years ago, we begun the work to sort of extend its shelf life, and we believe that we've extended it for another 3 to 5 years for the work that and all of the work that we've done thus far. And that just simply has bought us time to get a new bridge.
Yes.
A new bridge immediately adjacent to the existing bridge. And I think I often get questions as to how this is going to work. The existing bridge will stay and will continue as is. Traffic will be used, we will use the existing bridge as is.
Yeah.
Whilst we construct the new bridge immediately adjacent to it, to its east.
Yes, on the right-hand side, yeah.
On the right-hand side, well, depending on...
Well, going into on the right-hand side, yes.
So it'll be immediately, once that bridge has been fully erected and has been deemed safe to travel, we will then divert traffic to use the new bridge, and we will begin to dismantle the existing bridge. So that is the plan.
Gotcha.
So where we are, we're very excited. We received, I think a month or two ago, we received approval from planning. So we received planning approval. Now we're in the process of going out to an open tender. So for the public's edification, this will go out to the public to say, here's what the government is planning to do, and bidders will bid and state whether, and ultimately we will pick the preferred bidder, who will actually be the ones who begin or will be awarded the contract to begin the construction of that new bridge. So we expect the bidding process to take several months. It'll be several months. I know you can appreciate we're talking about a $50-60 million project. Yeah. So it's not going to rush. Sure. You want to be able to ensure that you pick the best vendor you can. But ultimately, once that vendor is selected, the work will begin. The construction work will begin. The country will be pleased to know that there will be a local element involved. And so sort of we as a government are quite adamant to ensure that whomever is the successful bidder has to work with local vendors as well.
Okay.
So this is not just us hiring, companies from overseas to build us a bridge. There has to be part of their plan, and this is why we're talking about this may take several months, because part of their plan has to be that they present to us how they plan on working with some local vendors. And so that, as I said, I fully expect, I don't see why by this summer we would not be in a position to have selected the vendor.
Okay.
And as I said, once the vendor is selected, the construction begins, and we expect it to be fully in place within 3 years.
Okay.
So again, you can appreciate why we've extended. We didn't invest greatly on the existing project. We invested enough to buy us time to have the new bridge put in place.
Okay.
So that the new bridge will be in place within 3 to 5 years, and we will begin to dismantle it thereafter.
Sure. 1 second. Hold on, caller. I guess the question I was going to get to is, when will it be delivered? And you said in about 3 years? So 4 years old told?
Three and a half years.
Okay.
3.5 years. No, so that's me.
No, granted, get me.
No, I was just gonna say. So I was gonna say, I'm saying 3.5.
Yeah.
So publicly, I'll say 4 years, right? 4 years. But but things can happen, right?
Yeah.
So these guys can impress us and work very quickly. And we just don't know. But I think between 3 to 5 years is a reasonable expectation as to when the new bridge will be up and running. And begin to dismantle the existing one.
One thing I will say too is that I do travel the bridge, every so often, and I was impressed when they were fixing it or updating it. The metal was quite corroded, and I saw them replace it with concrete effectively.
Yes,
and so it's interesting just to see that process. And now, as you drive, of course, you still see it there, so we know what is there. And I take the point that it's really meant to last for another, say, 5 years.
Yeah.
But within that time, of course, you as the minister of government have to make sure that the new bridge is in place.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And so we're pleased. I mean, as I said, things are moving in the right direction, and things are moving at the pace that we had envisioned it happening. So,
all right. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Richardson, and also to the minister there.
Yes, sir.
On the bridge project, being at this discussion now, whatever happened to that material that was left on the roadside there years ago after the last administration? Was that ever able to be used anymore, or was it able to be used when they was trying to fix it before? Whatever happened to that material that was just laying on the roadside there? And another thing, looking at that project that you have there, and of course, I know that the housing doesn't come under your ministry, but looking at the two projects and looking at what is really, I would say, a priority right now in housing, and of course the taxpayers' money being used for that bridge at the area is at $60 million, and looking at the timing on the houses where it was estimated at 5 to 10 years. And, that's quite a long time to be waiting on that particular project to produce that. Because what should be a priority, either the bridge or the housing, due to the same taxpayers' money.
Yep.
And, looking at 2 elections to go by before we see people housed, that seems like it's quite a long time.
Okay, caller, you did say that you're correct that it's not the minister for housing, so you'll not go there too much.
Right, but looking at
hold on. But what questions are you talking about? Do you have a material left beside?
Well, the thing is that it's the same taxpayers' money.
Yes, understood.
For a particular project.
Just question.
Is actually,
1 second.
Yes.
What are you talking about material left beside the road? I don't know what you mean. The minister's not familiar either.
Okay, not for this. Okay, when the other party was in.
Okay, well, we don't know. Okay, no worries.
Yeah, and the material was bought, and I think Mr. Cannon was working in engineering ministry at that time.
Okay.
For the bridge. And of course, a lot of money was spent on bringing in material. It was left there on the roadside where people were picnic there, and I don't know what happened to it.
Okay.
But this government did come along and repair it again. He said it's stable now for the next 5 years until the new one is built. But there was material money invested in, I think, doing that same job or whatever it was supposed to be for. But I just wanted to find out whatever happened to that material.
Thank you, caller. There's two questions you have. One is about the materials, and the other one is about the housing.
Yes.
That's it?
Like I'm saying, I know.
No, that's any other questions?
I was just looking at the money that's going to be spent
Yes,
to build
got that.
that bridge,
Understood.
and looking at the point that priority housing is one of the things that's mostly needed, and it's still gliding on the taxpayers' money to what is really the priority.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
So, Minister.
Yes. So, as you said, I am unfamiliar with the material that the caller was referring to, but certainly it's something that I can look into. I do recognize the voice, and I do know the caller, so I can certainly, when I do get the answer, be in a position to reach out and give him some answers in terms of what was done with that particular material that is referring to. In terms of the housing, absolutely. I mean, listen, we all have separate budgets. The Deputy Premier and Minister responsible for housing has articulated on several occasions his plan and path to increase the stock, if you will, or inventory of housing, and in particular affordable housing on the island. And there's a number of strategies and plans. So it's not just all one thing. There's a breadth of strategies and plans that he has in place. I think the caller would be pleased to know that there's a number of initiatives that the Deputy Premier has articulated that will not take 5 to 10 years. I think if there's one thing that we as a government recognize is the importance of housing.
Yes.
It is the very root and reason why we have arranged for a ministry to focus specifically on housing.
Correct, yes.
And so the Deputy Premier has a number of plans, and I think, I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but I do want to say I think he's sort of has a vision to have 100 to 200 homes within the next 3 years. And so, he has my full support.
Yes.
But whilst he focuses on housing,
yes,
I am focused on a number of critical infrastructure. And so I appreciate the caller's position of, taxpayer dollars and how it's used. But I think that the caller would also appreciate that at its current state, there is only one way in and one way out for the people of St. George's.
Yes.
And so we have to be able to protect that and to ensure that we have adequate means for persons to cross that bridge. And so it's not just, for the sake of having a bridge, but it's also for the sake of ensuring that the people of St. George's can reach the mainland for the foreseeable future, because we do recognize that the existing bridge has reached its shelf life. And so we have to move quickly and swiftly. And so that is why it's prioritized, not just, I'm sort of repeating myself, but not just for the sake of having a bridge, because we do recognize there are a number of priorities and a number of critical issues, but ensuring that the people of the country can reach the mainland has to be one of those priorities as well.
Okay, we'll take this call and come back to that in a minute. Good evening, caller. Thank you for your patience. What's your question or comment?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I'd just like to ask one question.
Sure.
And I know he's not the minister for prisons, but my thing is I go to the prison to visit.
Yes.
And what happened, and I'm in my 80s. Let me make that clear.
Yes.
And they had this dog that, goes around sniffing. I know that, but what I don't like is when this dog is set up so it sniffs my personal private area.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That infuriates me.
True.
Yes. Okay.
So I just want to ask the minister, when he has a conversation with the minister in charge, could he just make a note and bring that up?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the Attorney General is actually responsible for the operations. And so, as you can appreciate, I have a great relationship with my cabinet colleagues and my caucus colleagues as well. And so certainly, I've made the note. I've made the note. And when I do see the AG again, I will certainly raise that with her.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, caller.
Have a great evening, and please be safe.
You as well.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that.
Okay. Bye.
Gotcha. And caller, I know there was a person calling from overseas. I did not take the call because I don't want to interrupt this caller. But if you call back, caller, I will actually take your call in preference to the rest of the calls. In preference to the rest of the calls. So do call back. The lines were lit up, and so everyone can call back. But I will give deference to the overseas caller. And good old Glenn does have it set up whereby we know when someone's calling from overseas, and so that's why I'll do that.
Okay.
But for now, good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment for Minister Adams?
And good evening to Mr. Adams and my friend here.
Yes, sir.
I'm an avid spokesman and have been using that route from traveling from and we always used to travel through ferries instead of going all the way around.
Right.
And it's like I said, avid spokesman, and I travel all through the world. And I'm just wondering, what type of bridge are you putting on there? Are you putting just a rollover bridge, or is it going to be opening bridge? So that, and this is maybe a three-part question, or trying to get an answer, is that I know that bridges that open hydraulically up have a great way for boats to go through, like for sailing or whatever, and without the expectations of, like, with the ferries having to go all the way around to save fuel.
Yes.
If it was wide enough, if it could come through the ferry reach. And also for the people in St. George's who have restaurants, and because it's a old town, if it was available for boating traffic, maybe on and off the hour, that could be a very good thing, evidently for boating enthusiasts, and maybe even for using that as a point to have people come here with boats that are having to go all the way around with the, in the channel areas.
Sure.
So I'm just wondering, do you have any idea yet of any selection of the type of bridge that's going to be put there?
So the minister's going to ask all your questions in terms of what type of bridge, and will there be the ability for boats to pass under it or through it, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Specifically if there's like boats that are,
Understood, like a sailboat.
Open up vertically.
Yes.
Hydraulically, any boat could go through, sort of. Rest is like, if it's, height adjustments, then not availability if it is. Still have to go around, which is like me. I have a fly bridge boat which couldn't go underneath there.
Okay.
Because as of now, we have to go all the way around, which takes a long time. I will give you, for instance, it would take me about 33, 34 minutes to go from 1A to into the Georges, whereas I came through, it would take me maybe about
Understood.
12 minutes.
Sure. Let's allow the minister to answer, okay?
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah. Appreciate you guys. Great show.
Thanks again. Sorry, before you answer, Minister. The person overseas call again, and I'll ask everyone to hold off and let that person overseas call, please. So overseas person call, and I'll answer just you. But Minister, what type of bridge are we going to have from St. George's?
So what type of bridge? Absolutely. So the focus is a modern structure. The design of the bridge has actually been made public, but for the listening audience, absolutely 100%, the design of the bridge will be to open up hydraulically, so it would allow large vessels to go under the bridge, if you will. I think the beauty is, I'm saying beauty, forgive me, I'm like 90%. I'm 90% sure, but I think many people from the country, but in particular in St. George's, will recall there was a time when an individual had to stay in that particular area, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think there's the capability of actually being able to open it remotely, and so there could be cameras there that recognize a large vessel is there, and someone does not have to be actually situated at the bridge in order to open it. And the bridge, yes, the bridge will open up or have the capacity to open up. And so it will save the caller, what did he say, about half an hour, 45 minutes.
And fuel and stuff, yes.
And fuel and stuff. So yes, that capability will return with this new bridge.
Well, it's interesting. And I would say my private life from the airline point of view, right? People don't realize that when an aircraft comes to Bermuda, especially like beyond 11 p.m., they can turn on the runway lights from the aircraft by pressing a button effectively. And so I guess it's something similar in the marine area whereby they can lift up. It's going to be interesting to see, by the way. And I guess, again, for me and everyone else, let's go back and look at the design so we understand, because it's always in my mind a pretty sight to see a bridge open, like the road opens up basically. But in the morning time, I don't want it to open up. I'm in a hurry. I'm driving through. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all works. And I trust that we'll be patient because, it's got to happen.
Sure. So, and if I can, I mean, yes. So yes, we're in a space now, listen, we're at this area now where cars are driving themselves, right? And people are doing a number of things. But yes, technology is allowing us the ability that we don't actually need any one particular station. But if I can, I think, this is a great way. It's not just Swing Bridge. As minister, as much as you are focused on the here and now and the matters of the day, there's also an element where you have to see 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line and actually begin the work today. And, so a great example of that is the causeway in of itself, right? We recognize, as I said earlier, that there's an increased likelihood that we will have more and more frequent and more intense hurricanes. And so if we're shutting the causeway down now, there has to be someone beginning the conversation as to, is that the best use, or is now the time where we begin to look at other ways to get from St. George's over to the mainland, other than the way it's currently constructed. As they say, the only thing that's constant is change. And so, yes, and I'm not even saying sort of that is the path that we're definitively going down. But these are the things that we have to now take into consideration. What does that look like? And so these are the conversations that are being had, and sort of, what would it look like? How much, how much would it cost? How long will it last? All of those sorts of things. How soon do we have to act? Right? Listen, I fully understand, right, that several months ago, the people of Jamaica had a Category 5 hurricane sitting on top of it, right, for hours, right? If that were to happen to us, are we prepared for it? And are there things that we can be doing now that will better prepare us? And so these are realities, right? God forbid something were to actually damage that causeway, that would not allow traffic to pass through it, right? And the dangers and the concerns and the risks that brings. And so, yes, how much, you're focused on the risk and the matters of today. But you also have to sit there and have conversations and actually begin to plan and plot how we're going to address these realities and risks.
Gotcha. All right, well done. Caller, welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Thanks for your patience.
I wanted to say hello to my good friend, Minister Adams from the Cayman Islands.
Oh, wow, thank you. He must know you was laughing, so go ahead.
It's Chris calling in.
I got you.
I just wanted to say it's been tuned into the show. Been great conversation. I've always tuned into here and there Bermuda going on because we have quite a lot of economic similarities between the two islands. So I just wanted to call in to say that I'm enjoying the conversation. And I do hope one day Minister Adams can hopefully meet with our Minister of Environment to talk about waste to energy, as we are in desperate need of that here.
That's interesting. Well, I would say Minister Adams is always available. either on these shores or your shores to talk about it. And so, and as you said, we are very proud about the fact that we have been doing this for a number of years now, and would be more than willing to assist in the dialogue.
Sure. So I'll give you a bit of history.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, when I was working for Butterfield, I worked in the Cayman office for 2 years.
Okay.
And so Chris was one of my brothers. He was one of my brothers. He was one of my closest friends, and still is a very good friend of mine. He keeps me abreast of the politics happening in Cayman, and I do the same in Bermuda. So continue those conversations.
Okay.
And certainly, it's sort of an example many times throughout the society. People often pit the two islands against each other.
Yeah.
But I think he and I are an example of what can happen when the two islands actually are working together. So, he and I will continue those conversations, and happy to engage with any of my counterparts in terms of how we can progress, not just Bermuda, but the region itself forward.
And, even though it's not a conversation for tonight, this is my comment, my broad thought about CARICOM. We have this old scary thing, but let's have a real conversation in terms of how we can actually benefit collectively with this relationship.
Sure.
So So sorry, who's his name? Chris?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Chris. Any other comments?
So,
Go ahead.
I keep it short. I know you said the lines are lit up, so I just wanted to say I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm tuned in.
Sure.
And best of luck going forward, Minister Adams, and on all your endeavors. And I'm sure you got more work than one could wish to have. But all the best, and have a good evening, gentlemen.
Okay, thanks again for tuning in and for calling.
All right.
Okay,
all right. Appreciate y'all.
Right, bye-bye. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment? And sorry for listening, audience. Thank you again for joining us here on Magic 102.7. Our guest this evening is the Honorable Josh A. Adams, the Minister of Public Works and the Environment. Everybody knows there's a guy, I shouldn't say a guy that's kind of casual, but a minister who I have lots of respect for. But what's your question or comment?
Yes.
You're breaking up. Come close to your mic, please.
Good evening.
Much
good
better.
To yourself, good evening to the minister as well.
Good evening.
Certainly a necessary conversation. I think
It's a bit of an echo. Can you come a little closer? It's a bit of an echo.
Hang on 1 second. Let me try.
Sure.
Is that any better?
Yes, much better.
Okay, good. So again, good evening to yourself, good evening to the Honorable Minister.
Good evening.
And I was saying that these sort of conversations I think are very necessary, and I would like to hear more conversations like this myself. But we're talking about the causeway.
Yes.
And the question that was asked is, are we prepared for a Cat 5 hurricane that sits on top of us for perhaps a few hours? Of course, the obvious answer is no. You see, I want us to all be listening, as everyone listening, right now, to imagine waking up the next day to hear that the causeway is no more. It's gone. Entirely gone. You see? And so then what do we do with that? Because that is an absolute possibility. I mean, we saw what a hurricane did, 2 decades ago, how that hurricane knocked out a good portion of the bridge.
Yes.
And I would have thought that at that time, the government would have moved swiftly to put in place plans and so forth to replace that bridge. That hurricane shows the vulnerability of that bridge. You see what I'm saying? It showed that. And so to just skip by that bridge, government, administration after administration, to me is very irresponsible. Because like I said, if you imagine that bridge not being there,
yes,
everyone imagine that bridge not being there, that right there should cause government to move and not continue to prolong because it's just a bridge and it seems like it's wasted money and we got other things that we can do that are more pretty and more attractive than putting all this money to replace that bridge.
Okay. So, Cole, let the minister answer that. Let the minister answer the question or comment in terms of what's the plan.
The people of this country will be so unforgiving.
Understood. Do you have a suggestion or let the minister answer the question, caller?
Yes.
What's your suggestion? Or let him answer?
I've already given you a suggestion.
Okay.
I'll listen to the minister's response.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Minister, that's a biggie.
Yeah.
We're up today, and guess what? There's no causeway. What happens?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I think the first is I do take the caller's point. I think that's why I raised it. There are a number of areas where we as a country are vulnerable, not just the causeway. There are a number of things, right? Anyway, we can come up with a bunch of scenarios, but what if ships stop coming to Bermuda?
Right, an oil spill.
Exactly. So there are a number of areas where we are vulnerable, and so I take the caller's point that it is something that we need to plan for, and I think I hope the caller understands that that's particularly why I raised it, was because those conversations are being had. We are having those conversations and beginning to the work of assessing a number of areas that we are vulnerable at, with the causeway being one of them. So yes, it is. But I also, and I can't let it sort of not be said that since I believe he was referring to Fabian, but it could be another hurricane that he was referring to. But I will say that there has been efforts to strengthen the causeway and protect the causeway over the years. But again, there's strengthening it, and that can last for a period of time. But again, we're talking about we're moving into a space where more frequent and more intense hurricanes are likely. That's where the trend is. And so we need to prepare now. So I can't speak for previous administrations, but I can say that this current administration is certainly looking at it and having relatively in-depth conversations as to what that will look like. And it's not just that bridge, right? There's a number of bridges. Some bridges are in various stages. But certainly there are a number of areas, and the causeway is one of those things. Causeway is one of those things that we are currently looking at. So the work, and again, and leads me to my earlier point, where sometimes, and it's difficult as a minister because sometimes I can say to people that work is being done, but until they see it, they don't feel it. And I'm saying work is being done, and conversations are being had, and analysis is being taken on. Let's single it and say the causeway. That stuff is happening. So although people will not see shovels in the ground yet, that does not mean nothing is happening.
I'll take this call, but I'll come back because I do notice as I drive around, right? Some of the words in my words are like the cracking on the outskirts, and I want to have an understanding as to
let's do it.
What's taking place. But take this caller first. Oops, sorry. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Yeah, I'm just calling back. Wouldn't
be concise.
As an emergency, Stokes Point, and of course the Coney Island area, that could be looked at as an emergency area with the bridge we now have going on to the airport. Maybe if something like that could be put in place, if it can be.
Awesome.
In those two areas as a area of emergency for the people of St. George and and also St. Davis as well. But another thing, Minister, I had mentioned to another minister about the Gavin boxes. You
Gavin,
pick up wires, the rocks in, and that could be something that we could be stockpiling, especially. Well, I mentioned to the road person, the highway manager gentleman, about using them along the North Shore and areas vulnerable for going overboard due to the fact that, we do have the fencing there, but it really doesn't stop you from going over. We do use a lot of rubble and I would say good rubble that could be weeded out. Also, they could be used in some of those areas coming around the flats area. I don't know if it's private land, but where that property could be pushed out the same way we're making land down there at the airport. We can use some of that to go around some of the coastal areas, and of course then putting the Gavin boxes in place 2 or 3 deep if you head into that, just staying on the main road other than going overboard. And then the part about coming back.
We got a caller. Hold on.
Placing the funds.
Hold on, caller. Like being rude. We got it, dude. But thanks, that's a good suggestion. I believe that it's nice to be solutions oriented rather than just speaking about problems. So thank you very much.
The Frog Land area.
Yeah, we got you.
The Frog Land there, the National Stadium.
We got it.
That was a good use for him as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The call is he always has a good call, a good comment, right? And so I don't want to sound like I'm being rude, but I want him to be concise. And he talks about the gaping boxes, whatever they're called, which is we know for sure they've been used on Bay Corner.
Correct.
Very effectively.
Correct. So he mentioned potentially using Stokes Point or the pylons at Coney Island.
Yes.
The challenge with that is that it will be very, very difficult for a structural engineer to certify that those pylons are currently satisfactory for a bridge. And so it is very, very unlikely.
Yes.
And so the reality is if you were to put a bridge there, you would in essence have to build new pylons. In that same area. And so you build the new pylons. Are you going to knock down the existing ones? Are you going to put it in between the pylons to make it difficult for boats to pass through? Right. All of these sort of things have to be put into consideration. And also, if you're going to go through that level of effort, you might as well just do a bridge for the causeway.
But I guess, in all fairness, though, so wake up tomorrow and there is no causeway.
Yeah.
Does government have that level of disaster planning as such?
Yes,
because
there's contingency.
It's quite a. I mean, like, take a boat, but I don't know.
No, there's contingencies.
Okay.
There's contingencies. There. I don't know how deep we want to get into this, but I think the short answer is yes. If something were to happen tomorrow, there is contingency plans in place on how we would address that.
Okay, fair enough.
And so there would be temporary solutions whilst we were to focus on fixing the more permanent one.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
Good evening. I would like to thank the Minister of Public Works, whoever it is that has been responsible for making this effort to definitely put the center line in the road.
Okay.
I would like that to continue and even get better in the name of public safety.
Yeah.
So I would like to give the government props in that area, because even if the road is not repaired to our standard yet, the least we can do is keep the center line for the name of public safety.
Sure. Yeah, no. Thank you, caller. Absolutely. So center marking is... we can transition to road paving and the status of road paving as well. But yes, so center line...
So thank you, caller.
Thank you. Center line marking is certainly a matter that residents quite often message me about or message the ministry about. We do have, so for a long time, so we have a center line marking machine that is quite old. So for, I think, the first 8 to 10 months of me having the role, it was out of commission. We now have the parts, and so now the machine is able to do a lot of the center line marking. The problem is, as I said, it's old, and so you're sort of on borrowed time. But in the interim, we are and will be actively looking for a new center line marking machine. So that is one of the focuses that I'm certainly looking to purchase with our upcoming capital spending. Okay. See how I tied all of this in?
It's interesting though, because clearly Bermuda is not the only place, right? It's not like, for example, you go and you say, okay, fine, we are small, whatever. You buy a center line marking machine of physical size.
Yeah. So
it takes a while to get here, but
So that's not even the challenge, actually. Part of the challenge is that our roads are so unique that we would have to, a number of the vehicles that we purchase and machinery that we purchase is very bespoke. It is very tailor-made for Bermuda. So it is not as though I, as the minister, can just go to a vendor and pick out a centerline marking machine, because you can imagine the centerline marking machines are really built for roads in the U.S. that are much larger than our roads. So when we make our purchases, we have to literally have a bespoke piece of machinery, truck or trailer and the like, in order for it to then be shipped. So it is not the shipping that's the issue. It's actually the work that takes in order to have that piece of machinery specific for Bermuda and Bermuda's roads, and then it's the shipping. in order to do that, as you can appreciate, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
Right? So I wish we had large highway type roads where I can just pick out a machine and say, go forward. But in order to, not only does it take a much longer time, but it's actually more expensive.
Yes,
right? And so this, all of these things have to come into consideration. But yes, it is a focus of mine. I do appreciate the risk that it has, particularly for those who are visually challenged, and particularly those at night. The challenge that it has. So yes, it is a focus of ours. We're glad to have the piece of machinery up and running for as long as we have it up and running. But rest assured, I am very focused on getting us a new one as quickly as possible as well. Okay. If we want, we can segue into road paving.
Well, one quick question.
Because you asked about cracked roads.
Right.
Okay.
Well,
go ahead. This is your show.
Well, no, the challenge is that obviously I want to make sure I answer the questions. But this goes back this goes back to our earlier topic.
No problem.
And this question is, will not Minister Jashay Adams do a video on stopping the unnecessary breeding and subsequent euthanizing of dogs in Bermuda?
Oh, great
These
question.
animals are being mistreated and under distress. Whoa, sorry, it's the one I thought. Let me just read the whole thing.
Go ahead. Okay. Great question, though.
Domesticated chickens and cats should not be living feral in the wild here, impacting our environment, including our dairy industry. Well, this is obviously from a person who knows what they're talking about. We have these issues due to people manipulating the breeding of and mismanagement of domesticated animals. We need pride in keeping pets and animals as a food resource, like we do caring for our wild animals at the zoo. We are in crisis. Well, we are in crisis.
Okay.
What is Minister Adams and his ministry doing about the care and protection of all animals?
So there's a lot. There's a lot in that question. So let me first say that I share the concerns, and I can't remember if I said it here or on Mr. Blakeney's show, but certainly I share the concerns that the caller had, or the person that sent you the question, when it comes to dogs, in particular restricted breed dogs.
Yes.
It is without question an escalating problem that we have in the country. And I can't speak in too much detail, but I do have an idea, or a plan, I should say, that I have to address this. And the reason it's not that it's a secret, it's just it hasn't gone to cabinet, it hasn't been approved and stuff like that. So I can't say that this is what we'll do until I actually, have the approval to do so. But with that being said, I do fully recognize the challenge and the risk that this has. It is something I have heard some really horrific stories of people sort of being bitten or chased or harassed, or just just had negative experiences, particularly with a number of restricted breed dogs, and it's something that I take seriously. I will say this, that I am very, 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 very close to beginning to unroll this plan. Or I should say very, very close to putting it before cabinet. And, once should the cabinet approve, certainly put this plan in place to help address that. So that is a plan to address the sort of dogs, but there's also works that is being underway on addressing or amending the Dogs Act. So there's sort of a policy. There's a policy that I am hoping to roll out very soon. And then there's legislative changes that I'm looking to roll out. Now, the legislative changes will be a lot not a lot longer, but I'm anticipating several months away, where I believe the rollout of the plan is several weeks away. So I want the people or the listeners to know that the seriousness of restricted breed dogs and the challenges, and there's a range of causes that have gotten us to this state. but it's now on us as a government and as a country. I don't think it's solely the government, but as a country to really take an active stance on addressing it. And so absolutely, it's on the agenda. In terms of feral chickens, great segue. It's interesting. There's a number of things that are quite popular amongst the people, and everyone has an opinion. What I can say is, back in December, I announced that the ministry is ramping up its efforts and its resourcing to address feral chickens on the island. There's 3 ways that the government addresses feral chickens. The one is the culling, it's the shooting, if you will.
You kill them.
I kill them, yeah. You walk right up and you shoot them.
Wow.
The second is the sleepy sedative. So the second is the sleepy sedative. So you put bait down, they eat it, they fall sleepy, someone grabs and collects them. And the other is the traps.
Yeah.
Right? So something that people often say is, why don't you just shoot them all, right? The reality is, as much as we think they are bird brains, the reality is that these chickens are quite smart. And so if you go off and you shoot 1 or 2, believe me, the rest of the 5 or 6 will just run away from you, that you won't even get in close enough range to shoot the rest.
Nice.
Right? So they learn. And similar, if they notice that 1 or 2 goes for the bird seeds and ends up getting trapped, then the other 5 or 6 just don't go for the bird seeds anymore. So there has to be a range of ways that we address the chickens in order to effectively get the results that we ultimately receive. So it's not just a matter of just walking up and shooting, going Top Gun on all of our feral chickens. With that being said, so we started the ramping of resourcing up in December, and I can say now, quite confidently, that thus far we have doubled the amount of feral chickens that we've caught, and sort of doubled the pace and how we've caught feral chickens. So we were roughly about 1,000 chickens a month.
Whoa.
We were catching, roughly about 1,000 chickens a month. And recognizing that I was going to be on your show, I asked my team, how did we do over the last month? And they said over the last month, we did 2,000.
Wow.
And so we're doubling up our efforts, sort of the results. So we're quite pleased with that. With that being said, we're also taking on additional resources.
Wow.
So we're actually doubling the amount of people that are focused on feral chickens.
Can you share which methods they're using, or which methods are most effective?
The range. The range. And I wouldn't say anyone is any more effective than the other, to be fair.
Okay.
And there, even that becomes there's pluses and minuses, right? So I'll give you an example. An individual, we have someone who is licensed with an air rifle, who's licensed to be able to shoot the birds, right? So you can appreciate that it's not as though we're talking about a kill shot, right? So
I shouldn't laugh. But okay.
No, these are the reality. So we're not talking a kill shot. So there are times when the individual gets close enough, he shoots the bird takes off running, right? And the bird may hide somewhere, it may run up in a tree, it may go somewhere and, whatever. And the individual is not able to catch the bird, right? These are real scenarios I want to, I can share.
Sure.
The individual is not able to catch the bird. So then the individual can't find it, moves to another space. And so now Anthony and his son go for a picnic, and all of a sudden a bloody bird appears, and it becomes an horrific experience. And I get those emails and messages as well, where people are outraged that they have a dismembered chicken. See, I'm trying to have a serious conversation.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, but seriously. So that, and the same is for, a sleepy sedative.
Yeah.
Right. So again, the bird may eat the sleepy sedative, may run off and hide somewhere, and all of a sudden you see a bird that looks drunk, and it just, it's completely discombobulated. And that in of itself, you can appreciate there are families who picnic or farm or do whatever, and that's quite, particularly, we're talking about little children.
Yeah.
That's a scary sight. So with all of that being said, I would not say any of those methods are better than the other.
Okay.
I think what you will find is the best way is to be able to apply all three.
Sure. Just a question. But do you have hold on, caller. Do you have an idea how many feral chickens there are? And my real question is 1,000, like how many do we have to be killing in order to make a reduction?
Well, I will say this. When we were doing 1,000 a month, we were basically treading water.
Okay.
And I recognize that we were basically treading water. And so that's why the focus was to ramp up our resources.
Okay.
So we will have more people addressing it. We've now have more traps out there. We now have a feral chicken app that I will encourage people to use.
Wow.
So if you see feral chickens, by all means, report it at environment.bm, and you'll see there is a right at the very homepage. It says report feral chickens, and you can actually particularly locate where those areas are, and someone will go there within a day or two to find and hopefully kill those chickens. Now, there's no guarantee. So I'll give you an example as we sort of transition, because I'm here, we can have these conversations, and by all means, want the callers to come in and ask any question that they may have. But in terms of the feral chickens, there could be instances where the individual gets there, the individual from Danner team gets there, kills the rooster. And because, Anthony can't sleep. Anthony can't sleep at night.
Right.
He complains that these chickens are waking me up too early in the morning. And so the individual goes down there and he sees the rooster and he kills the rooster. Right. And the rooster goes away. Well, what ends up happening is the rooster from 20 yards from now sees some new hens that he can probably have in his remit.
Wow.
And so now you think that we haven't addressed the issue, and we have. It just so happens that nature has taken its course.
That's amazing.
So these things are they are a concern. It is why we are actively trying to address it and boosting up the resources, because not only do they keep individuals up at night, but they also the farmers will quite tell you that they are quite damaging to their crops.
Gotcha.
And so will damage the resources. So I just wanted to bring a bit of color and real life examples of what the team is focused on a more daily basis.
Gotcha. Wow. Good evening, caller. Thank you for your patience. What's your question or comment?
Good evening, the world and minister and moderator and listeners. Minister, you just might be able to direct me to the area that I make a contact with quite a bit of concern, and obviously it involves the roads situation. Just a bit of a preamble. The member of Parliament sitting for this constituency area, they called me up, seeing how I am in COVID. Then I brought up the situation of a very hazardous situation on the road that we live in the West End. There are two senior citizens, one rest home, a senior citizens community, and a tourist accommodation, and the road area up there needs serious attention with continuing a sidewalk, which is really overgrown, having to walk into the road to get to the bus stop. And also, we really need a crosswalk painted to get across the road, and tourists and senior citizens can get back and forth from and to the bus, so to speak. Does your department have a contact number where one can call in to make such reports and have it looked at? Because the representative of the area called me up, but it seems to have I'm being polite, a non-return call to contact him. We're supposed to come and look at it with him and talk about it and probably get to you. And it's been several years now. And how could this be addressed? Because it's very, very hazardous. There's been a death in the area and a no accidents, one being my wife being rammed by two bikes.
Oh, wow. Sorry to hear that.
Yes.
So, great. So let me say a couple of things, because you would appreciate it.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. You would appreciate it. I don't know exactly where the caller is, the road that he is specifically speaking about, but that did raise an interesting point that I wanted to gladly be able to speak to, is that a number of people often express their frustrations on specifically referring to their private roads.
Yes, yes.
And so there's always been this bit of back and forth as to people, being frustrated that there's potholes or issues with their private roads. And unfortunately, as the way the legislation is currently written, there's not much the government can do in terms of private roads. With that being said, in the most recent throne speech, the audience will be aware that the government did take on the task, or is taking on the task, of relooking at the Private Roads Act with a focus of making amendments that would allow the government to be able to get involved in some of the private roads throughout the island. Now, I am not here to say that we are going to fix every private road tomorrow, but it is what I believe a step in the right direction. And so the government, with these amendments, will be able to get more involved on ways to make our private roads more safer, whether it be through traffic calming measures, so zebra crossings, speed bumps, whether it be the simple erection of a mirror. You'll be amazed. It's there's the ministry's ability to do things on private roads is actually quite restricted.
Okay.
And so with these amendments, it would give us the capacity to now be able to make our roads, private roads, a lot safer.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if the caller is referring to a private road or a public road, but if he is referring to a private road, we are in the midst of making those amendments, and I fully expect those amendments to be tabled this year. So it will allow us to do that.
Yeah, okay, cool. Other question. Caller was just commending you, by the way. That's from earlier, in terms of you were the person behind the mortgage scheme. So I'll do that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, in a previous life.
Yes, in a previous life, for sure.
Yeah, so I was excited about that as well.
No worries. Good evening, caller. Thank you for calling Insight. What's your question or comment?
I'm awfully sorry. I'm the last caller. I'm not referring to a private road. This is a major artery.
But where's the road, caller? Just say where's the road.
Right next to the area of, we can look at Packwood Old Folks Home, Little Bank, and of course to Hayden. That area. Very hazardous.
Yes, okay. You're talking about Hayden actually enters the main road.
I'm sorry if I misled you.
That's fine. No problem.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, caller.
So, that's a great segue. So, that's a great segue. So what I will say to the caller is we absolutely have a team that does assessments throughout the island. So we often get people who express concerns and safety issues or safety concerns that they have. And we actually have teams that actually go to the respective areas and do an assessment. Sometimes the team agree with the individual, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes there's always mixed opinions. A great example is just because the caller says that that's where the zebra crossing should be, does not necessarily mean that either the neighbors beside him agree or the team agrees. And again, it's not to suggest that they would disagree.
No, understood.
But I mean, these are the sorts of things that happen. So what I will say to the caller and all listeners is that if you have any issues involving public works or questions about public works, to please email me at ministerofpublicworks@gov.bm.
That's long.
It's probably long, but I think it's pretty easy. Okay. Minister of Public Works.
Okay.
At gov.bm.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll repeat it for a third time because
caller.
I'll repeat it a third time because my host said it's quite long. It's Minister of Public Works at gov.bm. And if you can put your questions or concerns or suggestions in an email, we will ensure to get it to the appropriate person so that it is addressed accordingly.
Okay. How is that managed though? Because I'm sure you get many emails.
Yeah, I mean, it goes ebbs and flows. You'll appreciate. It goes in ebbs and flows. So yes, there's people within the team who know exactly who to go to.
Okay, fine.
Whether the concern is feral chickens, whether the concern is about a speed bump, whether the concern is about a pothole, whether the concern is about an issue with a leaky government building.
Yes.
There's a team that know exactly who to triage that to, and from that, the individual should be able to expect a response in a timely manner.
Okay. Let's take this call and I'll come back to you in terms of the crack roads and what's happening with paving the roads.
Let's do it. Oh, yes.
Good evening, caller. Welcome to Insight. What's your question or comment?
I've got a simple solution to my brother to say. I have a big truck and driving on these roads. I think a lot of people are planting foliage too close to the road edge. I think if we put it into policy that government is now, as of today, cutting back 3 feet from the road side. And any crashes, they will put it out. Because there's a lot of damage things. I have a mirror that it takes about $142 to replace. And that's like at least once a week.
Yep.
That's just for the mirror, sir. But I'm just saying, I couldn't imagine the problems that we have with trees, with rain and wind and all on the curves. But if it was cut back 3 feet, we'll say, and then not allow people to plant on the road. A lot of people are planting trees on the roadside about a foot, not thinking that it grows over about 4 feet.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the minister says. Go ahead. Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller. I think great example, and I appreciate the caller's comment. So let me say a couple of things. The first is, and it's before we get to the road paving and the crack roads, because we will get to that. But the caller raises an interesting point. In December, you'll recall that the Minister of Finance allocated what we call supplemental funding to a number of ministries. So effectively, the government, from a fiscal perspective, was performing better than expected.
Yes.
And so if I can even simplify it further, we were doing better from a financial perspective, and thus the Minister of Finance was able to allocate additional funding to respective ministries. The reason why I mention all of that is because the funding that I received was to be used to address roadside foliage throughout the island.
Yes.
So I've used that funds to bolster up the team that focuses on roadside foliage. I know very well that particularly during the summer months, there was great concern over the overgrowth on a number of areas, whether they be roadsides, to railway trails, to school buildings and whatnot. So what we've done is we've taken this additional funds to bolster up that team. And so it is my expectation that we will begin to see results from that. So you will start to see, particularly on public land, but even on just the roadside period, there's going to be greater effort to sort of dressing back a lot of that overhanging foliage that the caller had spoken to. That's number one. And number two, we have a so I certainly can attest to the caller's frustrations because as he, I believe, is a trucker, as he said.
Yes, he does.
Right, as a trucker.
Water trucker, yeah.
What I can also say is that I have that same issue as minister with our garbage trucks. Our garbage trucks face that same issue, and so we constantly have to replace. We have to replace mirrors and parts that can easily be addressed if individuals were to cut back their foliage. Now, with that being said, I think late last year, letters did go out from my ministry to a number of homeowners to say or remind them of their responsibility to cut back their foliage and what the penalties would be if they don't do so.
Well, are you going to do it though? Because let's say my trees are hanging over by a foot, 2 feet. What are you going to do? Like, what's the real effective measure? Does it work?
Yeah, so we can have a team this is something that my predecessor had put in place,
Right.
that we can have a team to actually cut it back
Yes.
for you,
Uh-huh.
and they will charge $1,000 an hour.
And I mean, does it work? Like, do I listen to you or do I cut my heart?
Yeah,
off?
absolutely. I mean, you get people who are upset, but actually, it's actually the reverse. It's not so much the cost and the penalty. Once you remind them of what the penalty will be,
They do,
I think
okay.
you'll find that most people are responsive.
Okay, good. All right. Man, always challenge for time, Minister. Let's do callers. I'm not going to ask the phone at the moment because I want the Minister to talk about
Road paving.
road paving
Let's do it.
and also cracking because, like, for example, I know that coming down by Watchhill Park, which is just beyond St. John's Beach,
I'm with you.
that road is cracked.
Yep.
I know the North Road coming up by Tynes Bay, that's cracked. And if you drive around in many areas in my mind, when I say cracked, you can see that there is cracking the road. So what's the overall plan for strengthening the size of the roads and those kind of things?
So, let's talk.
And paving.
Let's talk. So we'll start talking about paving.
Okay.
So paving is a focus of ours. It is when I was invited to take on the role of public works, I said, oh man, I'm going to get calls every day about road paving. And I pretty much do. But it is an absolute focus of ours. I don't want to sort of rehash the not challenges, but there's the realities that we face. What I often remind people, is that in order to pave on any given day, I think I need 4 things to be happening at that day. I need a working asphalt plant. I need working paving equipment. I need appropriate resources, meaning the appropriate team and manpower, and I also need good weather. And I need all 4 of them to happen on any given day to allow us to pave. So you can appreciate sometimes the frustration it could be where I could have 3 things working and
Sure.
one thing sort of ruins it. With that being said, it continues to be a focus of ours. We are currently on North Shore near the Flats area, near Jennings Road at the moment. We're currently there. We will then I think callers will recall or callers will know that near Store Hill, there was a challenge as what you referring to the cracked road there. So the team is repairing the retaining wall. They should be finished very soon. I would say, good weather permitting, they should be finished this week, this coming week, and which will allow us to then finish the paving in that particular area, and then we'll finish the paving near the aquarium. Once that is all finished, and I believe in the next few weeks, we will then move to Southampton. At the entrance of Southampton Princess or Middle Road.
Okay.
The entrance of Southampton Princess or Middle Road, we will work our way east to Warwick Pond, Longford Hill.
Yes.
So we'll work our way there. And then my constituents will be pleased to know that we will then do Spanish Point Road, the entire Spanish Point Road. Okay. So that is the plan of our public roads. I think your listeners will also be pleased to know that we've also outsourced some efforts as well. And so on my way here today, I can see that the other team has now finished Orange Valley, the entire Orange Valley Road. Okay. So that is now fully completed. And so we'll look for other opportunities to help quicken the pace of road paving. So it's not, so what I said was the government team. Yes. And now we're outsourcing a separate team to do additional works as well to complement our efforts and duplicate the works that we're doing. So
there's only 2 that can do it, right? Government and one private contractor.
At the moment, this level of road
the high end,
yes.
Okay.
And then there's also, and this is a great segue, there's also opportunities in other companies that can particularly address potholes specifically. Yeah. And so we'll start to see a lot of efforts in road paving, whether it be the government team, whether it be the private sector addressing additional roads, and then a separate company that will focus primarily on potholes. Okay. And so this is us demonstrating that we've heard the calls and we've heard the cries.
Yes.
These things do not happen overnight. I wish that at the snap of my finger I could have these things occur, but it just doesn't happen that way.
Yes.
But I do want to be able to articulate that we've heard the calls, and I want the public to be able to see the fruits of our efforts. And so, yes, you have a government team that is working. You have a private team that is working on, a government team working on roads, a private team that is working on additional roads, as well as a separate private entity now focused specifically on potholes to improve our efforts. Now, you mentioned the cracked roads.
Yes.
So the cracked roads are concerned because the reality is many of our roads were actually built for horse and buggy.
Yes.
They were not built for this level of traffic, whether it be the frequency or the weight.
Yes.
It just was not meant for that. And so the wall that I'm referring to on top of Store Hill is a prime example of us sort of working on that particular area, noticing that it was beginning to crack quite rapidly, and us sort of immediately coming to implement measures to address that, i.e. Rebuild a retaining wall. You can also imagine the previous retaining wall did not have the same building codes that we currently have. And so that was a challenge. Another great example is 5-Star Island.
Yes.
So 5-Star Island several months ago was another example of, so I do want to sort of say that we do have structural engineers that regularly go along our roads and look at the cracks that you're referring to. I think they refer them to, I think they call them alligator backs.
Okay.
But they assess each of those, and when they notice that the cracks are getting bigger and bigger relatively quickly, they sort of sound the alarm, and we immediately, shut down the road and put a plan in place to address the roads. Now, so some roads that you may see that have these cracks or have these alligator backs, the assessment from the engineers say, notwithstanding that, the deterioration is not happening at a pace that will cause great alarm. And so those sorts of things are happening, and they will continue to measure and they will continue to assess. So it's not like they assess and say, oh, there's no problem, and then never go back again.
Right.
They continue to assess and to ensure that, the latest findings is still the case, or they'll notice, hey, these cracks are getting much larger. It's time to sound the alarm and quickly address.
And all that government cost?
Yeah. Wow. It's all part of what we do at Public Works is to, we have structural engineers that do focus on our roads. Now it's the same team that focuses on cliff erosion. So I think, there were people who were concerned about cliff erosion, i.e. Blackwatch Pass.
Yes.
Right? Or I think on East Broadway, there's also sometimes rocks that sort of spill out on the road, stuff like that. There's a team. Now that's just nature. It's just nature, but there are, teams of structural engineers who go and do an assessment on the roads, on the cliffs, on a number of areas throughout the island, and make their assessments. And if they raise concerns, there's plans in place to address them.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to take this caller. Good evening, caller. Going to be the last call tonight. What's your question or comment? I know.
Good evening, Mr. Richardson and your guests. I really appreciate the show.
Thank you.
I'm an ex-road paver of Public Works.
Awesome.
Keen on the work that's being done, and it is just amazing of the improvement of, in particular, the joining of the Mets.
Yes.
Yeah, they're doing very good. I really appreciate that, and highly commend them.
Well done.
The department for the work done.
Thank you. Yeah, and so, yes, I often, and I appreciate you for your work and your service because, again, much like the guys who collect our garbage, much like, we often, or they often hear criticism.
Yes.
they don't often hear people commending them for the work that they do, but they are the ones in the rain. They are the ones in the hot sun. They are the ones who are laboring. You know, you can imagine what it must be like to pave hot asphalt in the middle of August.
Yes,
right? And I know you do, you know, and so these things are, you know, are not an easy task. It's a daunting task, and I certainly commend them as well for the work that they do. And I, as minister, am committed to providing them with the resources that I can to help make the job easier and more efficient, and ultimately make the result, improve the quality of the result.
Okay.
Well done.
Thank you, sir, for calling. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good night. Now, what I'm going to do? Very last caller. You are the last caller. We're past 10 o'clock, but good evening. Welcome to Inside. What's your question or comment?
Roadside hedging. And,
Okay.
I know
We got you.
that's a serious issue. But it would.
No, just be real concise. What is your comment? Your comment is, give it to me.
Probably could get some assistance from the landscaping company.
Got you.
When it comes
To the private sector. We got you.
The law is back 6 feet from your boundary, at least off your boundary wall, other than line it up with your boundary wall to allow traffic to see where they're going. You know.
All right, cool. Thanks, caller.
To have that done. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a question, though, in terms of, so my boundary happens to be on the roadside, like, say, for example, right? You're not going to cut me back 6 feet. I'm going to say, no way. So what's the
So, I mean,
law?
look, there's the ministry is quite aware of the laws.
Yeah.
And there's reasons and rationales. But certainly road safety is a concern. And so if your foliage is causing a concern for commuters, it has to be addressed. Again, letters did go out late last month because of the frustration that was brewing, particularly amongst our garbage collecting team. They expressed, and they continue to express, frustrations that they face, and the damage and the risk and things of that nature. So so we did issue letters out. So again, it's not unprecedented. It's not something that we would be afraid or wouldn't be afraid to do again. And what we did find is that, again, once people recognize what the penalty is, they are quite responsive. In terms of the outsourcing, that is a bit of a challenge. Outsourcing in terms of landscaping work, so or just outsourcing, period. It is something that is talked about and discussed, but it is a matter that really needs to be discussed with our union partners. It has to be a matter that needs to be discussed with our union partners before we really put a plan in place on, you know, putting that in motion. I can't do it without I can't, not to say I can't, but I think it is prudent to be to do so in collaboration and cooperation with our union partners before sort of putting that measure in place, and they have an opinion on that. So it's not as easy as just snap of a finger and just saying, yes, great idea, let's, you know, do the landscaping. You know, people have thrown that idea out. We've explored it, and we do, you know, we've explored it. We continue to have those discussions, but it's just, it's just something that just continues to be discussed and worked on.
Well, Minister,
can I say one more thing?
Yeah, you can say more than one thing if you choose.
So I do want to say this, is that as much as it is budget season, and certainly looking forward to the Minister of Finance issuing the budget statement this Friday. As you, as a former member, know, I'm excited for the following Friday. We have the great economic debate when we, as members of Parliament, discuss the upcoming budget on a more macro level. So that's always great fun. But as much as it is budget season, for the Ministry of Public Works, I will say that it is the season where we begin to prepare for the Ag Show. Okay. And there is, it's much like a hurricane. So when a hurricane comes, right, it's almost like forget all your plans. Everyone is on hurricane preparation, and then the hurricane happens, and then everyone is on hurricane cleanup. Well, when the agricultural exhibition comes around, it sort of scrap all the plans. the parks team specifically,
Sure.
to focus on getting the grounds of botanical gardens up to the standard that we're all become accustomed to. But the reason why I wanted to bring up the ag show is because I did want to be the one to exclusively say on your show that the public can expect to hear a few oinks.
The pigs are back.
They can expect to hear a few oinks at this year's agricultural show. So we're excited about that. And
so we import them, or somebody has them already on island too?
No, they had to be imported.
Wow.
So there was we thought we were going to have them last year. We thought we were going to have them last year, and then there was a bit of an oversight or something that we didn't fully take into consideration. Call it a learning curve, if you will. But we did it, and so yes, we do have the return.
It's amazing, how people think about those things. Like there are small things that are almost iconic.
Yeah,
and you cannot have an egg show without pigs.
Yeah.
So,
and so it's funny how there's some of the things that people love. I think the agriculture is cultural, right? And it's something that all of us can remember attending and seeing. Whether you were putting in exhibits or seeing your cousins' exhibits or watching the horses or watching some of the acts that are there, and also remember the pigs, right? And so you remember the pigs when you were little, and you want to make sure that your son or daughter sees the pigs now that they are little. And so there was people. I wouldn't say frustration. I would say disappointment that people had. And so it is with great pleasure that I can say that they have now, they will be returned.
If I may ask, are they going to be Brodian just for that, or they're Brodian, they're going to be here?
No, they'll be here. They'll be here.
New residents.
So yes, there are 4. I will sort of manage expectations and let you know that they aren't big pigs.
Oh, small pigs.
They are small pigs.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they are piglings. But with that being said, they are here, so they will grow over the years.
Yes.
So there's no intention on. They're not here temporarily. They are here, and so they will be here for the years to come. So as I said, you got to start somewhere. The piglets are here. And so it's exciting to have that returned and be here for the years to come.
Gotcha. Again, Minister, it's been quite interactive. People have been calling in and sending messages. I did my best to incorporate the questions as they came and make sure I got everything, all the rest of them. Can't do that. Okay. Done. I'm trying to make sure I got all the major questions.
Sure. I'll tell you what. Whilst you go through your scanning, I will say that also in the coming weeks, I will be tabling or look to be tabling the Marine Resources Enforcement Strategy. So this is, in essence, the government hearing the concerns that a lot of people, and it's not just fishermen, but fishermen were one of the stakeholders, but those who sort of utilize our waters, have been long calling for better enforcement. And so we will be tabling and making public the government's efforts going forward on how we plan on ramping up the enforcement on the sort of the laws governing our waters.
Okay.
So you'll start to see in the paper we're starting to see a number of increases in our prosecutions for people who are doing illegal work or specifically illegal fishing.
Yes. Okay.
And so that was a grave concern that people have had, is that you have the laws, and we've come short in sort of enforcing those laws. And so we're now ramping up the efforts and being in a position to now publicly let the country know exactly what the strategy is and how we plan on improving our enforcement efforts. And so they can plan to, or people can plan to see that in the coming weeks. That'll probably be something that I table in the House and be in a position to speak to. But certainly, I think people will be pleased to know that, because there's one thing to pass laws, but it's another to enforce them.
Yes.
And so we need to ensure that we have proper resourcing and proper planning and adequate strategy in place to enforce those laws. And so the past year, whilst I've been in the seat, it's been a primary focus of mine to get that in place. It was one of the key things specifically that our fishermen continue to raise.
Yes.
And so, as a listening government, as you know we are,
yes, okay.
I've taken on that task and in a position to publicly relay it. Because and again, it's not about, and I say this to my team all the time, it's not about catching fishermen. It's actually about preventing them from doing the illegal fishing.
Yes.
Right? And so, that's what the strategy is. So it's not just about, catching the ones who are doing the illegal fishing, but putting measures in place that will prevent them from even doing it.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Minister, like I said, it's been wonderful. It's been 2 hours. It's going more than 2 hours, actually.
Always.
And just as regular conversation. It's not even like, and we haven't touched on every single thing. But clearly what I'll do is let's look forward to the budget, which comes out this Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in appropriate time frame, we'll have you back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To talk about what's going on.
I'm always making time for you. So you give me the invitation and I'm back.
Sure.
Again, just wanted to thank you and your listening audience for your ear. I am always available to discuss anything within the Ministry of Public Works and Environment. I would leave on this note and simply say, again, if you have any questions, concerns, or suggestions that you have, please email me.
Minister of Public Works of Government.
Yes, Minister of Public Works
at gov.pm. There you go.
Yes, Minister of Public Works.
It should be intuitive.
Yes.
But are they all like that? All ministers like that?
No.
Okay,
I know the Minister of Finance. Has one because I was the junior minister and put it together.
Okay, gotcha.
So I know the Minister of Finance one. So his is Minister of Finance at gov.pm. So no, not every minister has one.
Because that would help the public, by the way, just to know, what's the email address? Is minister of whatever it is at gov.pm and get it. So, okay, cool. All right.
So, each minister has their own personal one, and then there's various stuff, and they can speak to theirs.
Yes,
but I do have one that is Minister of Public Works, and anything from, notwithstanding it's Minister of Public Works, even if you have questions that involve the environment, by all means, please send me an email, and we'll be responsive.
Gotcha. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You also.
2 hours flies by.
And to listening audience again, if you're out and about, please wear a high visibility vest or a light or something to let people know that you're there, because we want to avoid any collisions. And unfortunately, people are driving sometimes at high speed, they're tired, whatever they're doing, they're distracted. And we want to give them as much notice as possible. I'm in the road, so be careful. And again, next week, we do have the Minister of Finance as confirmed to be our guest to talk about the budget. And I'll say for myself that it's good because it's a tradition. Actually carried over from Larry Scott from way back when on the other station there, by the way, whereby we always had a conversation on the Sunday after the budget day. And so I'm very happy that the current minister has agreed to do so. And it'll be his last time to do it right after. Well, that's not true. It'll be the last time before he steps down as as the premier. But we don't know if it's going to remain as minister. And I say this because I interviewed him before, and before he was adamant about not being the Minister of Finance, but now he's been a little bit more relaxed in his commentary. And so we will see. But I'll leave it at that. So next week we have the Minister of Finance on air.
Yeah. Well, so yes, I'll leave those internal matters internal. Yes.
Again, so thank you to listening audience. Until next week, I will sign off and say happy